Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right. I am John Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Gracias. Thank you so very much. We're starting our morning right with you, and we're going to start it even better by taking a look at the weather. We should be joining Catherine Cumberbatch. Wow, we haven't heard that voice in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, we know that we have been seeing cloudy weather, definitely a downpour yesterday. It was like instant floods in the city.
I know, yesterday evening, that was tough.
Yeah, but gladly it drained away quickly.
It did. Coming out of the house this morning, it was a little chilly, felt, extremely low 70s. Something that once we feel it here, we know that
it extremely low 70s. That was your internal
that was my,
thermometer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, good.
Extremely low 70s.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and read the prepared forecast.
Okay, so let's do that.
Yeah.
It says in the general situation, relatively moist airflow continues to dominate our weather.
All right, our 24-hour forecast is for cloudy skies with a few showers and periods of rain developing mainly along coastal areas during the morning, then spreading to most areas during the afternoon and night.
All right, and the winds blowing from the northeast to east at 5 to 15 knots, producing choppy seas.
All right, our high temperatures for today are going to be 81 along the coast, 84 inland, and 68 in the hills.
And for tonight's lows, 72 along the coast, 68 inland, and a cool 66 degrees Fahrenheit up in the hills.
And for the extended forecast for Thursday and Thursday night is for a few cloudy spells with a gradual decrease in showers during the morning. Thereafter, shower activity will be isolated.
All right. Well, it sounds good. 81 coastal for today, 84 inland, and 68 up in the hills. Now imagine being up in the hills and having to work. Woo-hoo, chilly, chilly.
Pretty sure they're used to it, though. They always get the coolest of the temperatures.
Yes, they do. But nonetheless, we're in a lovely country. We've got good weather, we've got good people, and we continue to move along.
All right. And so we're going to keep things moving now with our eye opener for today. And our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. The ego is simply a way for us to understand and attend to ourselves at the same time as we understand and attend to the world around us. Perhaps the problem is that the ego sometimes gets out of control. This happens when the higher self loses control of the psyche. The psyche then falls under the leadership of the ego, an entity that was never meant to lead. The ego is meant to be definitively in the service of the higher self. When this relationship is functioning, the ego is a useful intermediary representing the whole self, but not thinking that it is the whole self. Then it is almost as if the ego is the self, playfully pretending to be the separate entity called I. Like an actor, the ego plays the roles that the world asks us to play in order to be part of the program. In this way, the ego can be a tool enabling us to be in the world, but not of it. We keep our egos in check when we continually nurture our awareness of who we really are. Then our egos are free to serve without trying ineffectually to rule. It is healthy to have ego, but like all things in life, ego functions best when it is in balance and harmony with your whole self.
As you read, Marlene, I just see a lot of stuff, and we're talking about this Mr. Ego. what it does, where it's supposed to be, and that it is a natural part of us indeed. It does have a role, but it is not supposed to be at the top. It reminds me of politics and political leaders and political parties and the fact that the people are actually the one to rule. But at the same time, there is just this reverse rule that happens for the most part. Indeed, we're supposed to put the ego in check, but it is a healthy part of who we are. Then it says, then our egos are free to serve without trying to ineffectually rule. I think as long as we're able to put it in check, the rule then eventually comes naturally from us rather than from the ego. This eye-opener is definitely one to reckon with, like we mentioned to you every day. But think about it. Think about your moves, how you're ruling over yourself and what you do, and decipher if it is you or just your ego. I like it.
Yeah. You know, I think what I hear when I read the eye-opener is really just being able to recognize that we mustn't give in to this idea of fighting your ego.
Yeah.
It is naturally a part of who you are. When you say someone has a big ego, you know, people already start to watch them with that side eye and, you know, yeah, of course, of course. And I think naturally that's what you think of when you hear the eye-opener.
Yeah.
But what it really does is drive home the point is that we're all working on balancing it. Some people definitely have it out on balance, and it's easier to see. But it's not that you suppress this part of yourself. It's that you learn to balance it out. And it's such an important part. You know, it's so easy at times. I think it talked about, you know, having a separate entity and being able to see the harmony and balance in it all.
Yes.
But the point is, you can't suppress who you are. You can't suppress your own needs. And you can't suppress being able to kind of have that sense of identity for yourself. It's a matter of being able to recognize it, but also work with everyone else, whether it's in the room, in your community, in your family. It can't just be all about one.
No, it could not. The ego can be a tool enabling us to be in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
And I think that is very important. Also important to reckon is that it is healthy to have the ego, but like all things in life, ego functions best when it is in balance and harmony with your whole self. Exactly the point that you were driving there. Yeah. But you know, for a lot of people, we reckon, and that's the first thing we see from some people, and then eventually what we do is that we judge. They may be able to suppress it to a certain extent. It's like when you're roaming with the animals, and I always notice this, especially when it comes to our canines. When they see another canine, the first thing, especially if it is one of that sex, what happens is that there is a big ego that comes out. I need to show that, you know what, I reign supreme. It does happen, but at the same time, you're able to suppress, especially after you get to know somebody. So it is not a bad thing. It's healthy to have. It's just about how you control it.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, you're talking about having a good sense of self.
Yeah.
And if you consider what the opposite of it is, if you don't have a healthy ego, then you're someone who's always a victim. You're someone who's always putting everybody else's needs before you. Or, you know, if you have an unhealthy big ego, then you're looking at people who need to deflate others to inflate themselves.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's about keeping that balance. You can be confident and you can have a good sense of self and be assertive without being disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I think that it's so important, and the eye-opener maybe kind of sounded a bit out there, the way it described it with the psyche, but just being able to recognize that sense of self is important.
Exactly. But like we mentioned, it's a great eye-opener to reckon for today. It's a good one to start. I believe in education and what it could do for the people, and this one definitely did that for us this morning, to know about your ego and what it does. All right? And so we've got a wonderful Wednesday morning show lined up for you. As a matter of fact, we'll be getting things started this morning with a chit-chat with the President and Vice President of the Public Service Union. Now, they'll be talking about, actually, it's a call for more political will. So public service unions call for more political will. What does that mean and what they're asking for? They'll be sharing that with us in the first segment this morning.
All right, and our COVID-19 update for today, we're going to be taking a look at the effects of COVID on children. And this doesn't mean the medical effects, it's just looking at the different situations that children are facing living through this pandemic. And we're going to have representatives of the National Committee for Families and Children to be able to discuss this further.
Definitely. And like we mentioned, every morning when we start the show, Start Your Morning Right, we'll be starting our show right and making sure that you do the very same with a workout routine, one-to-one workout routine to start being healthy for the new year. We're looking forward to that. So we're about to take the break, but just before we do, we need to give our birthday shout out, and we would like to say a happy birthday to none other than Javier Molina. Happy birthday to you, Javier. Yeah, there he goes. Once you see Javier, there's a camera next to him. That's just how he is. Happy birthday to you, my brother. Here is wishing you all the best from the entire family, all of us here at Channel 5, and all of us right here on Open Your Eyes. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be chit-chatting with the Public Service Union. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. Welcome back. A cool Wednesday morning across the country, and we're about to get things started with our first conversation. It's actually a conversation with the Public Service Union, a call for more political will. In to talk to us more is the president of the Public Service Union, Gerald Henry, and also the vice president of the PSU, Dean Flowers. Guys, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning to all public officers, especially our union members, and of course, good morning to the entire nation of Belize and our citizens outside of the country as well, no? And everyone watching.
All right. So, guys, getting into the conversation so we could maximize our time, there are changes, there are uncertainties, and a lot of things are flying around, and a lot of people would like to see more. The topic here says public service unions call for more political will. I'd like to go directly there. When you guys are making this call for political will, what are we talking about here?
Well, essentially, it's a call for the political parties or the political players, whichever party they belong to, or even individual candidates. But it's mainly for those who assume power, no, to start to look at doing things the right way. We have seen where not doing, the following the regulations, for example, respecting the laws of the country, adhering to principles of accountability and transparency, and so on, where those have gotten us so far. And most of the problem, it boils right down to simply having the political will to make those changes to create that paradigm shift in the country and get away from the same old that has Belize in the grips that we are in right now. So for me, that's the short answer to it, no?
Dean?
If I may, John, good morning, Belize, and good morning, John and Merlin. If I can add a little bit to what the president said, it also hinges on the made by the public officers and more importantly the union was not felt that we were thrown under the bus with his statement that there wasn't a single public officer that came forward to whistle blow on the former Minister of Works and his CEO against against those individuals. And we felt it was a bit unfair.
Yeah.
The union has tried, at least under the leadership of Mr. Henry and myself, we've tried real hard. So
for some reason, we seem to have a problem with your connection there, Dean. Yeah. For some reason, we seem to have a problem with your connection, but
sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right. What I'll try to do then, I will use another means of logging in. I'll go on my phone rather than on my laptop.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So we'll give you some time to do that, and what we'll do is talk with Gerald for a bit. So the release that was issued last week was in following the House meeting that took place. Clearly, the allegations that have been laid forward as to the corruption and the land scandals that are well public knowledge now has highlighted that there had to be some level of engagement from public officers in carrying out these actions. How do you respond to that, Gerald?
Certainly, in order for those pieces of information to have come out, public officers had to be directly involved with that, no? After all, we are the ones who work the system. and not to disrespect any of the chief executive officers or the ministers, but it's simply a fact that in most cases they don't know the public service system. They cannot access most of these records, so it depends squarely on public officers, to assist them in attaining these various documents and so on. And so it was pretty much a slap in the face, for us to hear that, taking it to the extreme that no public officer was willing to release this information, no? And in fact, even as you may agree or realize that, the run up to the elections, there was a lot of information that was being shared, and we even have information that continues to be shared at this moment. Some things even reached my desk, from public officers exposing those public officers who are engaged in fraudulent activities. So I have at least 5 that I could think of right off the top of my head, which came from Ministry of Natural Resources, which is popularly known as the hotbed of corruption. We have also from the Ministry of Health, right? So these are some of the things. Ministry of Works again is another hotbed that maybe we may not be aware of, but that has been coming out slowly, or perhaps even maybe it shouldn't be slowly, but it has been coming out in quite an astonishing fashion in terms of the level of corruption that was in that ministry as well, no? And I think that there is a lot more to come, just simply based on my own personal knowledge, no, and of what was going on there. And so I believe that that it was a very unfair statement to make to against public officers, and we had to take some very defensive actions on it, no, and let them know that we don't really appreciate the comments, and they defended us in the run up to the elections. So I don't know where that statement actually came from, no?
And in fairness, yes, we have in fact had the PSU on the show to discuss a number of concerns you've raised, especially within the past year or two, from concerns submitted by your members. But my question is, and especially, turning a page, there's a new administration, there's the need for the same level of vigilance that was always asked of you before. Sometimes in workplaces, there are people who are complicit. If you look at what has been laid out as the way some of these scandals took place, the information, the private employee information had to be submitted by somebody, most likely a public officer there. But beyond those who are directly involved, there are many on the outside who are aware. They see the behavior, they see the things happening. What is it, from your knowledge, that hinders public officers from moving from observing and maybe complaining to actually speaking up?
Right. Well, one of the main things is that they don't have any protection when they do that. A lot of them are afraid to come out, especially if it is that they will be asked to testify. They are afraid that after subsequent to that and showing their faces that if the government happens to change and that particular political party would again come to power, that they will be attacked, no, and viciously at that. Yeah. We have a case of a gentleman who myself and Brother Dean know, who had made that step out and exposed corruption in his particular workplace. And what happened is that while it was in favor of the party that that eventually, came to power, subsequent to that, when that party came to power, he was not. By the way, he was laid off his job. He was terminated. He was severely dismissed, losing his job as a result of his actions. And when the other party came in, one would think that he would have, been reinstated because of his bravery, etc. And but when that party took office, he was instead told, well, we don't want you to do the same thing to us, so you will not be getting back your job, So because of course, the whole concept of that politicians across the board, and it's no secret that both of them are engaged in these fraudulent activities over the years. It just interchanged between the parties, no? And so when that other party came in, they told him point blank, we are not going to give you your job back because we don't want you to do the same thing to us, meaning that they don't want him to be a whistleblower, against them as well, right? And so public officers need that protection, to be certain that they won't be victimized after exposing these illicit acts of politicians and their own fellow public officers, because the politicians themselves cannot do us anything, right? It takes another public officer to sign that letter, terminating you, dismissing you, disciplining you in whatever way. So, so they are afraid of their own public officers who, sadly, are selfish enough to, for a few dollars more, would take action against our own, just to continue that fraudulent activity,
But that begs the question. Isn't that then a part of the role of the union itself, to provide that protection, especially when it is unlawful or unfair, the termination or transfer or demotion that may come subsequent to simply saying something nefarious is happening in my ministry?
Right. Well,
Yes. If I can jump in there, President.
Yeah, sure, Brother Dean.
Yeah. Kindly allowed me. You are right, Marlene. Yes, that is part of our role, but our job has become double, has been made much more difficult with the politicization of the public service, which we need to also be fair, did not just occur 12 years ago. And so while the union continues to provide or attempt to provide the kind of protection and enabling environment to ensure that our people are not victimized and that our people do the right thing, it is the very politician who stand today accusing public officers of wrongdoing that has enabling this very environment of corruption. And so we realize that we have lost some of our grit in ensuring that we provide the kind of protection necessary. And for that reason, we're saying, let's look then, where UNCAC is concerned, there is a mechanism within UNCAC that requires the implementation of a Whistleblowers Act or protection of people who would come forward to expose acts of corruption. And what we are asking is that the current administration move away from pledges, move away from motions, move away from campaign promises, and put in place the kind of mechanism that is required for public officers to feel safe, that there is security of tenure, to feel safe where their family and their safety is concerned, and as I would also say, to ensure that there is a compensation mechanism, that there's an incentive mechanism for people to come forward and whistleblow. Let's not get it twisted, as one famous past senator said. corruption is not necessarily embedded in the Ministry of Works. Corruption is embedded in every single government ministry and department in this country. From the Office of the Auditor General, you might find corruption. You might find corruption within the Ministry of Finance. You will find corruption in the Ministry of Environment, in the Ministry of Immigration, in the Custom and Immigrations Department. Is it corrupt? Or is it political will? When you have a new administration coming in and disregarding the rules and the law and the constitution of this country, isn't that corruption? We must ask ourselves, will we nit and pick corruption, or will we address corruption holistically? The appointment of the acting DHS, that goes contrary to the Constitution. The appointment of the newly installed Customs Comptroller, it goes contrary to Section 105 of the Constitution, which governs public officers. Are these not acts, possible acts of corruption, whereby we disobey the Constitution, the very Constitution, by the way, that we took the former Prime Minister to court for? I mean, I might sound a little bit passionate here, but I am saying, the Public Service Union is saying, the rhetoric must stop. Let's be fair and let's do what is right by this country. A government for the people, by the people. We cannot be continue along what we've seen over the last 20 years.
Dean, I'll tell you what, being passionate about what you believe in is always a good thing. That much I could tell you. But while you've pointed out a few things, what can the public service do about it? We're here talking about it, and we know that, you know, the people are actually the masses are the bosses. So what would you say the PSU will do or about this situation?
Well, one of the first steps that we're taking is to say there must be the introduction of legislation to protect whistleblowers, because that will incentivize and that will give public officers the kind of comfort that they need. Not only public officers, but the general public, the kind of comfort and the kind of incentive that they need to come forward to highlight when it is they must or they're forced to participate in acts of corruption. Bearing in mind that a lot of the corrupt act that takes place within the public service is as a result of what's the word?
Bribery?
Well, people are forced to, no, they're forced to engage in these things.
Well, I want to jump in on just that point, because I can't help but think of the Senate inquiry that happened in recent, and I think this was one of the points that came out very clearly. There is a culture that exists that what the minister says or the minister's associates say is the edict within a government department or ministry. And very often, as we heard in some of the testimony there, people followed through because it was given with the particular directive saying that's what the minister wants. Now, this is not something I'm sure that you would disagree with, that it simply is a culture, whether you're junior or senior, when you get that message, you follow through. But my question is, at what point does, I mean, you have members, there are regulations, you have your entire rule book that guides how you are supposed to function as a public servant. There has to be some re-education taking place here before this problem continues any longer. Because you were going to say, I know you were looking for the word, that they feel forced. But is it forced or simply that perception that this is the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
For me, if I can chime in here, for me it is simply a situation where our public officers, one, need to understand that, as I said previously, that we are the ones who actually have the power to dismiss and any sort of disciplinary measures taken against our fellow public officers. So if a minister directs any public officer, and by the way, a minister should not be directly contacting or giving instructions to any public officer. That's the job of this CEO at this time, in the present, the recent government system. Previous to that was, of course, the permanent secretaries, no? And some of the problems actually, start from there, because CEOs, with the introduction of CEOs, the system slowly drifted towards the lines between the executive and the legislative got blurred, and in fact, in some cases, it was erased totally, because the CEO, who is the accounting officer and who is pretty much known as the senior most public officer, he now acts solely on the behest of the minister, right? So it's just the minister channeling, his principles and his whatever actions he wants to take to the CEO, right? And that is where the danger comes in, because then now that CEO, who is actually a political person, then carries out the public officers' task of now submitting the public officers for disciplinary action and so on, no? And so the public officers, being aware of that, tend to be a bit tentative when it comes to making sure that they do their tasks where that they should. And what compounded that was the fact that, at least in the past administration, the Ministry of the Public Service itself, as Brother Dean mentioned just a while ago, in terms of where the various places where you find corruption, including audit, etc., which is supposed to be the watchdog. But the Ministry of the Public Service itself was very, very much guilty of breaking the very regulations that they were supposed to ensure that all ministries, departments, all public officers adhere to, right? And so public officers found that, well, we have nowhere to go. Where are we going to run to when the very persons who are supposed to ensure that the regulations are followed are themselves breaking the regulations, and it's not that we don't know, right, that they are breaking the regulations. The regulations are there. We are well read, especially us senior public officers, and so there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Public Service Union, Marlene, and I wanted to put this in here, just because a lot of public officers feel as if though we can do, all sorts of things, and we are just not willing to do it. But the Public Service Union cannot protect public officers. There's no mechanism in which we can protect. What we do is to represent. That's the best we can do, but that comes after whatever action, or sometimes before we can try to be a bit proactive. But in most cases, it's a reactionary sort of relationship, that we have to react to what is done to the public officer, and that is where we try our best to always make sure that we represent. We have been getting a lot of successes, of late, with some persons who were terminated, that were not deserving of that. They have been reinstated into the public service, so, but that is a huge fight. Trust me, that is a very long, drawn-out process. I believe that the most recent one was at least a year and changed, going to 2 years, that we had to fight to get that person back into the public service, and I'll let you know, even when the directive came down from the Belize Advisory Council to reinstate the person, we had a fight with the Ministry of the Public Service, of course, the previous under the previous administration. We had to fight to get the person back, and it was it was instructions from the Release Advisory Council, right? So it just gives you the extent to which the public service has been damaged over the years. And I think that one of the main things that the union should do is to start to educate our public officers as to the rights that they have and the powers that they have, and not to allow any politician, and even to the extent of the CEOs, to just come and direct them. We want to encourage them to document when they receive instructions that they know are against the regulations, and especially in cases of fraud, because they will point the fingers back at them, right? And so in order to protect themselves, document it. If you can, you get a witness to the matter as well. You can record these instructions if they are given verbally. There's nothing against the law about to record. It's what you do with it afterwards. You can't just share it, but you can use it in your defense. And we have done that already. In where I used to work before, and it worked fine. They had to withdraw the case. So these are some of the things that I think that we need to to bring our public officers into back again, especially the younger ones. To understand what being a public officer is, and the powers that we have as public officers.
And you imagine that something like the Whistleblowers Act, and I take note of what you said, Dean, that it should also include incentives, will be helpful not just to the public, but also to public officers themselves.
Exactly, and I can assure you, Marlene, that that the Whistleblowers Act, and as I said, the Public Service Union must do more, and part of doing more, it means that we must ensure that at all times we maintain a cordial relationship with the government, and then more importantly with the Ministry of Public Service, because their goals and objectives is our goals and objective in most instances for the proper, efficient, and quality, and the provision of quality service to the general public. And so the relationship must always be professional and cordial, and part of that is for them to also listen to us, as well as us listening to them, and we're hoping that they will listen to us when we say to them, look, if you don't want to take the lead on this, the Public Service Union will make available the kind of resources that we have to make this thing available, because we have the public's interests at heart. And so we believe that with the introduction, and the immediate introduction, it would be a shame if we have to go through a fight with the current administration for there to be the introduction of this type of legislation. Some of the reforms that we're hoping that the new Ministry of Public Service will do, of course, is to reintroduce the induction training for new entrants into public service. There is a need for them to also indoctrinate their CEOs. We take professionals out of the public.
Don't public office, just help me understand here. What is the training that they get when they go in?
Currently, yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It's
no public officers
it's a shame
when they
where
assume
we
a
are
new job
today.
in government service.
No. People are sent to Ministry, Marlene, simply sent, and I'm not saying it is being done under the new administration.
Yeah.
I'm saying that under the previous administration, people were simply being sent into ministries without even the knowledge at times of the CEO and the heads of department. And these individuals will simply just evolve into the service. There is no formal training that is done so that people can familiarize themselves with the regulations under which they're governed, or what is expected of them.
Yeah.
And so
or
that
even
is
maintaining the
union has
accountability.
also, suggested.
Or maintaining, I imagine, maintaining accountability, because you are talking about public resources most of the time.
Yeah.
Let me bring back, because you noted you mentioned that in the previous administration, and I know it's very early in this new one to get there, but in the previous administration, people were sent into the ministries without any training, and I know we had prior interviews where you noted that CEOs or head of departments didn't even know. But it brings me to another question. The PSU, and I know through the umbrella organization NTUCB, had consistently called for a full list of all public servants. Anytime we talk about the public wage bill, which is a very critical issue that has to be addressed, you're talking about the salaries, you're talking about the benefits, you're talking about the pension of all these people. You were never able to get this before. And I want to bring it up now to ask, have you asked the new ministry to provide that list? And why is it important that you have that as a starting point for any conversation about the wage bill?
Well, I can accurately report that the Council of Management has been meeting, and since Saturday, we've met on 3 occasions, and that is one of the requests that we have been mandated to resubmit to the new administration for the provision of a comprehensive staff list, because we, as we have stated on previous occasion, there needs to be an audit of that staff list. The conversation surrounding ghost workers and whether or not people have a desk or not will continue. But the only way we can effectively address this concern is for the provision of that staff list. And we have not made that formal submission to the new administration, Marlene, but I can tell you that as recent as last night, that formed part of our discussion, and we will be making such a submission so that we can, in collaboration with the Ministry of Public Service, do a desk audit to identify exactly the areas in which public officers or members of the public are fleecing the public service.
Yeah. One of the things that that I actually, after reading the press release sent out by the PSU, one of the things that you guys did mention is the fact that you're actually offering to help the minister. I think, it has to be a holistic way forward, that everybody is in it to help each other. Have you heard anything back as yet from the minister with responsibility? And if so, what was tabled?
I'll defer to the president on that one, since I know he recently had some conversations with the CEO in the ministry.
Right, yeah. Thank you very much, Brother Dean. Just to go back just a little bit to the previous issue with regards to the staff list. As Brother Dean it has not been formally requested, but my communication with the CEO, he has committed to providing us with that staff list. In fact, he should be sending that authority to the CITO, which is the Central Information Technology Office, I believe that the term means, for them to release the information that we have been asking for. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, with regards to the relationship so far with the present administration, and in particular the CEO for the Ministry of the Public Service, as you mentioned a while ago, John, that we have been in very close. We have been meeting quite a bit, whether virtual or in person, to discuss the various points that that are pertinent and very immediate, to the public service. And I have a list of at least 12 issues that that we have been discussing so far in my relationship or the discussions with the CEO for the Ministry of the Public Service, Dr. Osman Martinez. Mm-hmm. And so we have been trying to ensure that we start off the relationship with the ministry on a cordial and mutually respectful level, and trying to maintain a very open relationship, no? And he has realized that in order for the entire public service to be improved, there must be this sort of relationship, between the union and the Ministry of the Public Service in particular, right? And so I can't even express to you how refreshing it is to have that level of communication, with the CEO for the Ministry of the Public Service, no, compared to what happened in the past. We have certainly been making strides, and we have meetings, that will be, arranged or scheduled for the between MPS and the Public Service Union, and there should be monthly meetings, right? And we are just waiting on the official feedback from the CEO, to create that sense of confidence in our membership that yes, indeed, the union and the ministry are now working more closely together to ensure that that there is a change in the way how the ministry goes about doing things. No? So we have been working very hard with the Ministry of the Public Service, and I think that we will see a lot of great changes, taking place. I'm confident of that. As our brother Tate would say, that you just you have to trust God with tie the camel, right? So, but
well, we hope
that,
so. Yes, we
yes,
definitely
indeed.
hope so.
But I believe that from my personal engagements, I think that we are going to be on the right track. There are some things that are, of course, points of conflict, that have probably come about recently. But I believe that cooler heads prevail and discussions and so on, and that is where we enter into negotiations and so on. But I believe that we are making very good progress so far, and I think that things will be changing now.
It's been a very long time since we've seen this era post change of administration, and I think we perhaps have forgotten how infuriating it is when the misdeeds of the previous administration are dug up and revealed. The point here, though, is that there has to be moves made, that we don't see this every time there's an administration change. And from the outside looking in, I think it's very clear that there are two problems that took place. One, the corrupt acts, but also those who stood by silently and said nothing. And I know we started off the conversation there, but I still want to bring it back. Now that you have heard the blame, or part of the blame, being laid on public officers, as you have pointed out, the lack of training for new public officers, and if there are people in there now who haven't been trained, they still need to be trained. The need for a Whistleblowers Act, the need for public officers to know what their guidelines should be when they're being asked to do something that is questionable in any way. What are your plans in moving forward to strengthen the public service, not just your members, but the public service in general, so that we can no longer have to deal with this situation that we're in today?
Right. Well, if I may go ahead of Brother Dean, I think the one of the main things is for us to to keep on with lobbying for our all public officers to be educated as they enter the public service. That has already been brought to the attention of the CEO, and he is in full support of that. And so it's now just some time that that will be needed. They're only in about 2 months now, and as I stated before, that the they're pretty much agreeing to the service, no? And so PSU would have to take lead here, and since there is at least for now, that we have a very good open relationship with the Ministry of the Public Service, and that we can now pretty much educate them as well during this process now, as to what the true needs of the public service are, to in order for the paradigm shift to be created, to get us back to the glory days of the public service, where public officers were well respected, to know that we are looked at as being beings of corruption and so on. No, we have to get back to those days. I always mention that we are not there solely for ourselves. We have to understand that the acts that we do will be reflected, and placed on our children as well, right? And we don't want walking on the streets and children out there, and someone would say that your party for whatever the case might be, that that breaks down a child, right? And so I want public officers to understand these things, no? We also want to ensure that the union is given as much leverage as possible in those trainings, in order to also educate public officers about the union itself and the job that the union does, the functions of the union and what the union can do for them, right? And so so the request that has gone, albeit informally for now, but certainly will be formalized by way of of sending a letter to the minister, to the CEO, to have the union engaged in all of these training activities that will be done, from the Ministry of the Public Service. So within the induction training that used to take place, if that is restarted, reinstituted, before, because I went through that induction training, and I can almost certain that there was no space given to the union. We did not have a presentation from the union, but we want that to change, right? So for hopefully the induction trainings that will start, we want the union to have a slot there, right? For us to also educate our public officers, and hopefully in that way we will be able to grow our membership as well.
Yeah.
They will then now be exposed to us first, right? Before they get exposed to to those who may very well discourage them from from joining the union.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to beat them to the punch, as the saying goes, and ensure that we do the education first, and then we follow up with reinforcing those trainings and so on as we go along, no? Okay. But we want to plant the seeds.
Okay.
Right. In the officer, so.
President, I know the time is dwindling. We don't have enough time, but I also wanted to touch on another matter that's actually brewing out there. It has been in the news over the past few days, and that's with respect to the land situation and the former Minister Montero. Public officers, without knowledge, have been placed into this situation, and it has been brewing, and it seems that things will eventually blow out of proportion. What is the PSU's thought on this, and what can be done?
If I may, John, I think things are already blown out of proportions. Mm-hmm. I think that there has been an attack on public officers within the Ministry of Works, an unfair attack. Now, I will say this. I am also of the opinion that several public officers in the Ministry of Work need to be held accountable. However, we must ask the question, how do we go after the small pay scale 1, 2, and 3 officer, but you hear absolutely nothing about the head of department in the Ministry of Works? You hear absolutely nothing about the FO in the Ministry of Works. You hear absolutely nothing about the AO and all these senior engineers within the Ministry of Works who had a responsibility to ensure that they knew exactly where these employees were, what they were doing, that the Belizean people were getting value for money. It is unfair for the current regime to be going after pay scale 1 and 2 officers who in some cases simply were acting on instructions from these very heads of departments. So I will say that in my view, the situation within the Ministry of Work has already been blown out of proportion, and it is something that the union is taking up. It is something that we have put a plan of action in place. I'm pretty quite sure the general public and the Ministry of Public Service will know exactly how we intend to address that matter, so that we ensure that whatever is being done there and in any other ministry, that it is being done in a fair and transparent manner. We cannot continue to victimize people unfairly. We have rules, we have laws, we have regulation in place, and people must be afforded the due process. The Constitution guarantees you that. And we believe that some of the actions being taken in the Ministry of Works is unfair, is unjust, and is illegal. And we will be addressing that as a union. And we want to reassure, especially our membership within that ministry and every other ministry who may feel hard done. There is also a lot of reports coming out of the Ministry of Agriculture. And all what we're asking for the Ministry of Public Service, in conjunction with the Attorney General Ministry, to kindly speak with the different ministers and CEOs for them to understand that the last thing we want to do is to have conflict. Under the motion presented under one of the motion presented in the House, motion 8, the government speaks about reforming and modernizing the public service by taking steps to restore autonomy of the public service, prevent micromanagement by political directorate. But a lot of what we're seeing is contrary to that. We want to partner with this administration to ensure that motion 8 is effected as quickly as possible and in the best possible way. We don't want it. I keep saying, even under the last administration, the Public Service Union is a partner with the government.
It seems we're losing that connection there as well, and we have lost. We are out of time as well. Dean and Gerald, we appreciate you joining us this morning. This is a very important conversation, talking about the role of the Public Service Union, and of course, we hear your calls. Thank you for explaining your position on pushing for the Whistleblowers Act and for more political will in fighting corruption. Thank you, and stay safe, gentlemen.
All right, thank you much.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, we're about to take a break. When we come back, we'll be having a conversation with representatives of the National Committee for Families and Children on incidents affecting children in a negative manner. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our new PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
The virus that causes COVID-19 may be spreading in our community. People might have the disease even if they have no symptoms at all, even when they look healthy. Because the virus needs us to spread from one person to another, we can stop it from infecting others if we practice physical distancing. That means stay at least 6 feet away from other persons. Don't shake hands or exchange hugs. Do not gather in groups. Stay home if government officials tell you to do so. Use social media or telephone to communicate. Avoid crowded and enclosed spaces. Work from home if you can. Stay home if you are sick, except to get medical care. Avoid close contact with sick people. Don't visit anyone who's sick in quarantine or in isolation. Give them a call instead. Help keep Belize safe.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we are moving into our COVID-19 update for today, where our focus is looking at how the pandemic has been affecting children across the country. We're joined by representatives of the National Committee for Families and Children to discuss this topic and hear some of the things that they know are taking place in different parts of the country. So we have with us Natasha Pipersberg, who is a CRC ambassador with the NCFC, and we have Diana Shaw, who is a member of the Child Protection Technical Working Group at the NCFC. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you very much. I think we have discussed COVID from many different angles, but we have definitely not tried to see it through the lens of children. So I want to start off there. The current situation, I think people are looking at how children are getting educated, whether they're protected from the health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. But what are the concerns coming from your end?
Who should start?
Let's start with you, Diana.
All right. Well, I'll speak from two perspectives. One, as you mentioned, the Child Development Foundation, CDF, is part of the Child Protection Working Group for NCFC. And part of our responsibilities on that working group is to monitor the situations that are arising in the country as it affects children. One of the things we are definitely seeing is the increase in incidents of reported case of abuse impacting children during the COVID-19 pandemic. That is not unusual. The restrictions that have been put in place to curb the spread of the pandemic has resulted in children being locked away in their homes. They are now isolated from teachers, who are the main reporters and identifiers of abuse. And in many cases, children are locked in their homes with perpetrators of abuse. What has been challenging is the inability in some cases to get to children, to identify those children that are at risk, and to provide services effectively. Now we have restrictions on movement between districts. We already have strained social services staff. So within the government sector and NGO organizations now are bearing more burden in terms of identifying and responding to localized cases within communities. So that's the challenge of identifying children that are at risk and getting services to them quickly.
So let me just get in here. We know that there is physical and sexual abuse that takes place within households. There are reports every single year that this takes place, and that doesn't, and there are many more that go unreported. But what about this pandemic life is compounding the situation?
Natasha or me? Natasha?
I believe you said 1 second. I believe what's also contributing to the situation is that, like they mentioned, is that we have children who are at home, and then you do have working parents. You have parents who are also as well unable to provide that extra care for that child who is at home. In regards to children engaging in online classes, one of the issues that I've heard of, and because let me also mention this, what I've taken upon myself to do along with some youths of John's College and those of Wesley Junior College is that I got a couple of them to come together and at 5 o'clock to 8:15, that's when they do these extracurricular classes online with students. And what they've basically reported to me is that there's an overwhelming report of kids stating to them that, parents are getting annoyed because they do not understand some of the work that are before them. And when you are in a situation whereby you have children who are unable to read, along with parents who are also unable to read, it creates a really strong tension. So it is frustrating because then I believe that as a parent, you're going to want to see your child excel. However, if you're incapable of helping that child, it brings an extra burden to you. So therefore, the increase of abuse is there definitely.
Yeah.
We've been joined, guys, by Denby York, who is a member, Child Protection Technical Working Group, NCFC. Mr. York?
Yes, good morning.
All right. So welcome to the program, of course. And guys, you know, one of the things that we've also been hearing, especially amidst this pandemic, is that there are a lot of children with special needs who are not being properly taken care of because parents have to work. Some parents might be working from home. The attention to those children are not necessarily being taken care of the way it is supposed to be. What can we say about this?
That is a serious issue. We are seeing serious gaps in terms of service delivery, especially in rural communities. For us at the NGO level, I will tell you that parents are overwhelmed because even before COVID, parents are strained in getting resources for special needs children in rural communities because most of the services are centralized in urban areas. And so now with restrictions on movement and we don't have effective program delivery in some of the more remote communities, many special needs children are not getting the services. There are some that are still getting services, but some are not. And that is a challenge. It's going to be a long-term challenge. The bigger issue even with that is also the psychological toll that this is taking on children, being away from the peer supports that many of them depend on for emotional well-being, and being away from the community of the school and the safe persons from church and their youth groups and sporting groups that normally would have provided emotional support for them.
Yeah. You know, it's a tough time. And I think that it's acknowledging where the stressors are all over. And as much as you can be understanding of the stress, there has to be a boundary drawn as to when you will intervene because things are no longer safe for the children.
Yeah.
Are we seeing adequate reporting taking place of abuse against children during this time? Mr. York, you want to take that one? Yeah.
I will say there is reporting because I know definitely NGO organizations, POWER, YES, DFLA, CDF have been reporting. Most of us are doing projects connected to UNICEF, UNFPA that are providing some support for us to continue with some activities, and that's supporting some of the reporting. But you have to remember that in Belize, traditionally, more than 80% of reports come from teachers. It comes from the school setting because teachers are the ones that spend the longest block of time with children and are quicker to observe those behavioral changes that indicate that something is wrong.
Yeah.
So when teachers don't have everyday access to children, and when you think about what's happening now, most primary schools are not online. The online schooling is really just for secondary school. Most of the primary schools don't have the capacity to be online. So they're doing the delivery of lessons once per week, but they're not delivering to children. They're delivering lessons to parents. So they're not seeing children. What we have been doing, we have been working with a few schools here in the Kaya district on the UNICEF, the Spotlight project that we're doing with from that to provide some psychosocial support for children, and we're supporting some online spaces for some schools. But again, not all the children in the school will be able to participate in that because we have to be working with the schools to find the children that have access to internet, that have devices. Then we have to be working with the parents to train the parents how to access the platform and to work with them to give the children the time to do the platform. So now we have to be doing sessions with the parents as well for them to understand the importance of providing space for children to continue to be engaged because this is important for their social and emotional well-being during this time.
Mr. York, let's try to get you in here. We know that it is a tough time, definitely, for all families, especially for children. And you are under the Child Protection Technical Working Group. How has that been going for you, and what is the work at hand?
Well, we collaborate. My organization, NACAN, works in synergy with the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and of course collaborates with social partners, including the Technical Working Group. I want to, if you would, allude to what my two colleagues have mentioned in terms of giving an overview of what the situation is. I think if we will all realize that this is an extremely difficult, it's dramatic in terms of the norms that children have endured. Mm-hmm. They are accustomed, if you will, to being in a teaching learning situation, which is to a large extent formal. And now we are calling upon, if you will, their parents to act in that role as a professional.
Yeah.
This is beyond anything that we had anticipated. And so we find that the situation has increased dramatically, particularly where the potential for child abuse in the home setting is concerned. And so the Technical Working Group, I imagine, is exploring the means whereby they can reach out to parents, especially, as Ms. Shah was saying, and to, if you will, find out the means whereby they can help them to better relate, to better cope under the circumstances.
Yeah. Well, is there a hotline for people to call if they feel that perhaps a child in their neighborhood is being abused? I think, Diana, you painted a picture that many of us have not considered, that teachers don't get to see children every single day and maybe note changes. But maybe neighbors do. Maybe someone in your community does. So where do they go and who do they call if they have concerns about a child's well-being?
So firstly, of course, they can always call the police.
Yes.
Mandatory reporting system in Belize under our child protection protocols require reports to be made to the Department of Human Services and to the police. So your local police officer is your first reporting if you can't get to the social worker. If you need to make a call online, of course, we have the police hotline numbers that you need to call, 119, and we of course also have, there's a hotline within the Department of Human Services itself that was established some years ago, the 0800 PROTECT number. Yeah. That is the hotline for reporting abuse.
Okay.
The challenge we have had though, that during COVID with social workers also providing relief support, sometimes the hotlines are not always manned, but keep calling and contact us as well. We have the TIPS hotline that will take any report. The Crime Stoppers hotline number 0800-92-TIPS that will take any report of any crime, including child abuse cases, and they will send it to the police that is in that area for them to respond.
Another area, I think, and I guess my question then would be, what type of support services are available? Because a lot of children are unsupervised during this time. Yeah. Parents have to work. They have to earn a living, and there are many people who are unemployed. So, you know, you don't want to, you want people are holding on to their jobs. Yeah. And so you have two situations. Either the children are unsupervised, or you have the older siblings then taking on the caretaking responsibilities of little ones as well. What are the concerns there, one, and also what are some support services that are being considered or offered?
Well, definitely the challenge that brings is when you have children who are being thrust into adult roles to be responsible for caregiving responsibilities. We also see that it's breaking down even within the community level. We had that incident with the 14-year-old that was being served alcohol. That's still being investigated, and I hope that charges will be brought. That's something that we need to look at, strengthening the legislation, the liquor licensing legislation, and the penalties under that are way too frivolous. They're not serious enough for the kinds of offenses that are there, especially in relation to children. So things like that are happening. Children are now in social spaces with adults at home. They are sitting under the tree, gambling with the parents, drinking with the parents, and that's creating vulnerability for abuse and children being pushed into to other roles that makes them vulnerable to perpetrators. They're being exposed to perpetrators. What we are also seeing, though, that there is some support at community levels. We are seeing response from local church groups. Several churches are responding in their communities to assist single-parent families. Some of them have been providing food support. Others, after the flood relief, provided assistance to repair people's homes and things like that. So try first to find localized help within your community, because of course we have restrictions on movement. You may not be able to get to an urban area to get services. So try to see the resources that are available. There's some resources that are now available online. For instance, at CDF, we can arrange counseling virtually. People can make connection to us through our Facebook page and set up appointments, and we can do virtual sessions. So we have other counselors that are now moving to do that. The School Counselors Association of Belize is the counselors are also available to students, those schools that have students in online and virtual settings. See if your school has a counselor, access the resources of the counselor through the school, contact local NGO organizations in your community that are already working with children, and they can often refer you to resources that you can access where you are, even with the restrictions that we have. It's important to reach out for help. It's important, even if it's just to put something on Facebook and ask somebody to help. It's important to reach out for help and not to remain isolated and in a situation where you are experiencing that you are or your child is in danger. It's important to reach out for help.
Sure, go ahead.
No, I was also just going to put there that even if they're unable to get in contact with any of these personnels that Ms. Shaw had mentioned, us here as ambassadors under the umbrella of the National Committee of Family and Children, they're always able to get in contact with any one of us. Myself, I am on Facebook, my other colleagues as well. If they just send us a message and then we're able to communicate with them and see what exactly the issue is and how exactly we're able to help them or which direction we can properly send them to, that, you know, that is also another revenue that they can also take.
The school setting, guys, is definitely one that is most important for the children. Of course, education, but one of the things that I think is being lost while children are at home is that social skills building. It is very important, where at this particular point, it is not happening the way that we want. We notice that kids are actually living on their electronics, and there's so many things to see on there that they're not supposed to, which of course allows for parents to actually put in place strict measures for them not to go there. But as the NCFC, what would be your advice in terms of parents trying to engage their children in social skills building?
Sure. Well, here at NCFC, what we've been doing mostly is that we've been trying to come up with creative ideas to get kids a little bit more involved. Like you rightfully said, they're always engaging with their electronic devices. So what we've been doing is come up with different little activities for them to do, whether it's for them to make a video submission of right now, the pandemic, tell us what are their views on it. You know, they're able to just do a video about what they think COVID is about, how is it that it's affecting them and stuff like that. And what that does is that it engages their creativity. So some of the videos that I've seen, like I look at them, I'm simply just at awe, because I'm like, okay, we're actually reaching out to them and they're understanding what this whole pandemic is about. And also as well, what we've been doing, well, something that I've noticed has been taking place, being that the children have, you know, probably seen you at school because we've done several presentations there. I've noticed that I've got an increase of messages via Facebook with children just wanting somebody to talk to about anything. And when I say anything, I mean anything.
Yeah.
And one child did mention to me that, you know, the parent is at work, but then she's alone until about 5 o'clock and she's lonely. And some of her friends, they're not online or they don't have the internet access and she wants somebody to talk to. Of course, whenever I do these presentations, one of the things that I try to like have stick in their head is that when you're on social media, you guys need to be very, very, very careful who you're speaking with.
Yeah.
You know? So my suggestion to her is to try to find something that you're able to do. Do you have a coloring book? Do you like to draw? You know, just find different things that you can engage in physically, as opposed to just simply just sitting on the on your Facebook and just finding somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have conversations with them, and if it's something that I'm able to help them out with, like in regards to directing them to an activity, that is what I do. Or if not, then I'll speak with my other colleagues if I'm busy and ask them, you know, do you have an activity for me to share with this child for him or her to do? And that's what we do.
Okay. Now, I want to, before we start to round off the conversation, Diana, you were making a note earlier, and I think it's important. There are particular laws in place to protect children and their well-being, from mandatory reporting, which means you're, required to report abuse, to the liquor laws that minors should not be given or sold alcohol. What are some of the other areas that you think we need to perhaps put out in the public so people can be reminded that, they're breaking the law if they engage in these things?
Absolutely. The liquor one is a big one because we have definitely seen an upsurge in that. And parents need to remember that it's also illegal to send children to buy liquor. That's also something that in our culture is not as readily accepted. But the Liquor Licensing Act, even though the penalties, as I've said before, are nowhere near where they should be, but it is an offense to send children to buy liquor. We have definitely seen that, and shopkeepers need to be charged for selling liquor to children. That is something that should not be allowed or to be tolerated, especially now when it's much more likely that the child is buying liquor and they're not being at home themselves. Because there may have been a situation where before this, the parent was accustomed to sending the child to buy liquor for them. The parent may be working and the child may be at home and still going to the shop and buying liquor, and shopkeepers are selling them liquor. That needs to stop. The entire community, as you shared earlier, now needs to take on the responsibility of monitoring children, because children are not in the school setting where they're going to be monitored by teachers and principals. So when we see children at the shop and they're buying liquor, people need to speak up and tell the shopkeeper, no, you can't sell liquor to this child. You don't even know if the parent is at home. You need to tell the child that the parent needs to come and buy the liquor, right? That's something that we can do to ensure that children are not being exposed. We already know they're not being supervised enough, but we want to minimize the opportunities that will arise for them to get drawn into illegal activities and to things that can create further harm. We also want the public to remember, as you indicated, that there are reporting requirements. For them, if they observe any child in their community, they know of any situation where a child is suffering harm or is likely to suffer harm, they don't need to investigate, they just need to make a report so that the proper authorities can respond. It's also important to remember that even children who are teenagers, who are under the age of 18, should not be employed in hazardous work. That's also a concern that we have now, because with families, some families have lost jobs, some parents are not working. There's a strain to provide economically for the family, and that sometimes means trying to get everybody in the family to do any kind of hustling or any kind of job that can be found. And sometimes people want to employ underage persons because they can pay them less to work in shops as shop hands and other things. But we need to remember that there are laws that protect our children from being employed in hazardous work for a reason. That work is dangerous to their development and will affect them later on physically. So we need to be cautious about these things and ensure that as a community we are doing our part to monitor these situations, to speak up when we see them, and to make the necessary reports to ensure that families and children get the help that they need.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you for reminding us once again that our children can very much be affected and affected negatively by the circumstances that we are under, and that we must all remain vigilant and do what we can to protect them. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
So here we go. We are about to take a break, and when we come back, it's going to be a one-on-one workout routine to start being healthy.
K1.
K1. Oh, yes, yeah. Healthy routines for the new year. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Actualmente, el virus de COVID-19 en el país sigue siendo una amenaza. Debido a que el virus nos necesita para propagarse de una persona a otra, podemos evitar que infecte a otros si practicamos el distanciamiento físico. Eso significa, manténgase al menos a 6 pies de distancia de otras personas. Evite el contacto físico. No se salude con besos, abrazos ni de mano. No se reúna en grupos grandes. Quédese en casa cuando los oficiales de la salud así lo indiquen. Utilice los medios sociales o el teléfono para comunicarse con los amigos. Evite los espacios cerrados y las áreas con mucha gente. Trabaje desde casa si puede. No visite a nadie que esté enfermo, en cuarentena o en aislamiento. Mejor, llámelos por teléfono. Protejamos nuestra salud.
Abigail.
Yes, Gran?
Abigail, I can't breathe well.
Granny, we need to go to the hospital to get you checked out.
No! I'm fine.
Yes, Gran, we need to go now to get you treated. Now, before it's too late.
No.
Grandma, we need to go for all of us.
No.
Stop. If you are having flu-like symptoms, please call us immediately for medical guidance. If you have chronic conditions such as diabetes and you are experiencing symptoms such as shortness of breath or chest pain, please also seek medical attention immediately. We've lost a lot of people this year. We don't want to lose you too. Please seek help if necessary. Call us at 0800-664-2273. Continue to wear your mask at all times. Keep physical distance when in public and stay at home unless absolutely necessary. This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Wow. Oh my God, she drunk. No hurry, I got this. My goodness. Oh my gosh, it's the artist.
Being the hardest. The artist. But you had way more than 2 drinks tonight, love, which is a legal limit to drive. What about you? Can you drive?
Well, I was drinking soft drink all night, so I can drive her home. Thanks, Bree. Of course, Tricia. You know I got you. You're my girl.
That's what I like to see. Friends don't let friends drive drunk, because you can't replay in a real life. Stig says so. Can't replay in a real life.
Mira lo que has hecho. Ahora sí te voy a mostrar.
Time out. La mayoría del tiempo los niños no saben que están haciendo algo mal. Usando violencia solo les enseña que pegando es la única manera de solucionar las cosas. Esto solo empeorará la situación y dañará su relación. Tómese un tiempo y hable con sus hijos de lo que está bien y mal. Construyan una relación basada en entendimiento, respeto y amor.
Lizani, sweetie, it's a very nice drawing, but you know you shouldn't draw on walls. You know how hard it is to keep the house clean. We will wash it off, and from now on, we will draw only on paper. ¿Entiendes?
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes, and we're now moving into our third and final segment for the morning. 101 workout routine to start your healthy lifestyle for the new year.
Beginner
level. It's a beginner's level indeed. And K1 is going to be our instructor for this morning. Now this guy, K1 Samuels, fitness instructor, guys, good morning.
And he's also joined by John Waite and Amir Radan, who are also fitness instructors.
Oh, that's
good
so nice.
morning.
Good morning, guys.
How you doing?
We're doing great. What about you guys?
Excellent.
Ready and set. So the New Year's is here, guys, 2021. And a lot of people are actually trying to get into fitness. Why? Because for the most part, we've got to be at home. But at the same time, we want to channel our energy elsewhere. So let's start there. What are some of the good things we could do for 2021 fitness?
Well, fitness in 2021 has to be about setting realistic goals, small goals, and attainable goals. And the thing is that everybody has to realize that the potential is within all of us. And it all boils down to literally making a simple decision of whether or not you're going to sit down for an hour or get up and maybe walk. So it's that simple. You don't have to overthink it. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It doesn't have to be a full-on workout plan. Your plan for the day could literally be just to get up and walk for an hour instead of sitting down. That's it. And from there, you can begin to gradually set more goals, maybe tinier, maybe instead of walking one route, I'm going to take the longer route this time. But stuff like that. It's all about pacing yourself all 2021. 2020 brought us to a complete pause. 2021, we need to get the engine back on and rolling again, but we want to take our time and just really step at a rhythm that's not going to throw us off track again.
Nice. Right. And how have you guys been managing keeping up with your workout routine?
I'll let John handle it.
Yeah.
I have my own jungle gym at home, so I really wasn't affected by it. I focus primarily on calisthenics, which is bodyweight exercises. And we focus a lot on strength and conditioning along with mobility and stability. So really, a pull-up bar was all I needed because it kept me going, it kept me progressing, and that's how I stayed fit in 2020.
Yeah. Right. And for you, Amir?
At home, I had a punching bag under the tree. I had my boxing gloves and a skipping rope, so that was it for me.
Cool. I was impressed. All I had was one kettlebell. So that gave me the motivation to start actually building equipment. So we started to work on making our own equipment as well and start to sell them to our clients who might be feeling the same way. You don't have any equipment, we were working through the gym and the gyms are closed off. So the only thing we can do now is just be resourceful and then try to extend that over to our own clientele and maintain them in their shape that they were in when gyms were a thing, right?
I saw that. You make the boxes now, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and let's not forget that you have definitely taught people how to use a 5-gallon as well. Yeah. For those who can handle it.
Say again?
I said, and you've also taught people how to use a 5-gallon bottle as well.
Right, we have to use whatever we have, but for this routine, we're going to just use ourselves. We're going to use our own body weight, nothing extra, not even your household items.
Yeah.
So this is proving that you need absolutely nothing to get a lap done in just a small amount of time. It's just
Which is perfect for people at home because they don't have to make any excuses about buying equipment or anything else. So let's start off with it. John is going to be the one working out today. And yeah, go ahead.
All right, guys. So I'll be the one to take care of business for today. But I'll tell you what, K1 and the guys, there are a lot of people right now who are feeling, you know what, I'm at home, and there are a few things I want to do. There are a few things that I want to get taken care of. So let's start. What's the best way to start a great morning routine or a great workout routine?
The best way to start a great routine, morning routine, is the night before, to be honest with you. You want to plan it out as best as you can, if you can, and if you don't, then you just have to, like I said, improvise. Just go for a walk or do something just to say that, you know, for this hour of the day, I was active. Yeah. But normally, extremely efficient and something long-lasting, that is. Yeah. You want to plan it the night before, like, okay, am I going to get up and start my morning routine by doing a couple stretches, having some water first as soon as I wake up. It's just setting small little goals like those will also make a better morning routine. Trying to be as productive as possible. The earlier the better to me when it comes to exercising.
Now when it comes to timing and hydration, how important is that?
It's extremely important that you continue to hydrate at different periods throughout the day. It's not just a one thing gallop, drink enough until you're full and you can't even walk properly, and then that'll last you until another, 8 hours or so. No, just take your time and practice implementing it as a part of your regular routine, like just having a glass of water every couple hours. And then if it comes to the point where you need to be a little more strict with yourself, you can set alarms on your phone. There are even apps available that are completely free that you can put in your information, your biological information, and it'll tell you how often you should drink water, how much water you should drink per day, and then some of them even provide you with alerts that you can get for the day.
So I'll tell you what, K1, there are a lot of people right now on their mats at their home, ready and set. So let's get it started.
All right, so I'm going to start you guys off. All the trainers are going to be training you all today from home.
Okay.
Guys off with 3, I would call them basic moves, and even if you don't find them to be basic, I'm still going to show you an alternative that you can do for them that will definitely be for beginners, even people who've been sitting down for years.
Okay.
This is for you and the fit people. So the format that we're going to use is a tricep, and I like to start off beginners with triceps because it gives us enough time to rest. It gives fitter clients a chance to really go hard, and it gives less advanced clients as well a chance to pace themselves and still jump back in with enough time to get in a good sweat or a good work in.
All right.
All right. That's how a tricep is. We're going to spend about 35 to 40 seconds per move and rest for about 15 seconds in between them. And since we need all the training board, we're only going to do 2 rounds with me, and then 2 rounds with Amir, and then 2 rounds with John. Okay. All right, so it won't be too much. The first move that we're going to do, John, is we're going to go down on our knees and on our palms. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that our palms are right under our shoulders.
Okay.
We're going to get the legs all the way out straight. So your body's in a straight line. Okay. All right. You can space the legs a little bit. Show you from this rear angle. Okay. Space the legs slightly. All right, but you want the palms to remain right on your shoulders as much as possible. All right.
Yeah.
First step, we need to bring one leg in. And the next step will be to bring the other leg in.
Do we rest them on the ground? Or do we not, or we just leave them out?
Say again?
Do we rest them on the ground? Like for instance, like this, or do we keep it up?
We're keeping it suspended.
Okay. Like knee to chin.
It's not touching the ground. It's going as close to the ground as possible without touching.
Okay.
It's not touching. All right. That's the first move.
Okay. 35 seconds.
That move, what you can do instead of bringing in the knees is just keep the body extended and just hold this high plank position instead. All right. palms right under the shoulders, legs out in space. And that's it. All right, that's the first one. And then the second one, try not to drop your pelvis down too low. Second one is going to be a squat, so hop up on your feet. Going to space the legs just outside hip width. Turn the toes open slightly. We're going to drive the knees forward in the direction of the toes while we drop them back down. Right? We're going to try to hold this for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and then stand up. Then back down for 1, 2, 3. Stand up. Back down again for 1, 2, 3. All right, that's the second move. And then the third move that we're going to do, John, is going to be jumping jacks.
Okay.
Which is too commonly known, right?
Okay.
Jump wide, space the legs out to the side while simultaneously reaching the hands up overhead. You can let them touch, they can go very close to touching, and then bring everything back together at one center point.
35 seconds.
Say again?
35 seconds.
Yes. Don't worry, you can survive. And then if that's too hard and you can't jump, maybe you have bad knees or you have a bad back, what you can do instead is just step out from one side to the next, stretching the leg all the way out while reaching your hands overhead still. And you really want to stretch it out, right? You don't want to just step out to the side like this and be lazy about it. You want, even though it's an alternative that you can do, you still want to get a sweat from it, right? So you need to push yourself even if you're not doing a high impact move like before.
All right, so let's go. Jumping jacks, or we're going back to the second?
We're going to start off first at our plank step-ins for 35 seconds. The timer is right here.
Okay.
To see from where you are, you definitely will hear it. All right, let's start off with plank step-ins. Palms under the shoulders, legs extended, and pull those knees in one at a time and extend. All right, the key point here though is to keep the rest of the body as stable as possible while the knees are going out and in. You're gonna keep the knees elevated. You don't want them to touch the floor unless you feel like you need to pause and take a break, which is completely fine. All right, if you feel like you need to rest, take a break, rest. No pressure at all, especially if this is your first time in a while. Remember that you don't have to step in. If you're feeling tired, you can also just hold a regular high plank position for the remainder of the time. That's the first. So we're gonna stand up now. You're with me? Oh.
So the next one is?
All right, here we go. Let's squat. We're gonna hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. Back down. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. Drop it again. 1, 2, 3. And we want to make sure that the chest doesn't drop too low. We're going to keep it nice and high. Keep the arms out to keep ourselves balanced. Go for 3. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. The chest should be right about where the ankles are. You're driving forward far enough, right? Have that ankle mobility. Back up. And that concludes the squat. So now we're really going to send the heart rate up and through the roof, right? We're jumping jacks.
All right.
What you need to remember now is that whether we're doing a move that requires us to move fast or it requires us to move slow, you need to continue to take really deep and controlled breaths. All right? Even when you're doing jumping jacks. So I might be moving this fast, but I'm still taking slow and deep breaths to the diaphragm. That'll help you to last a little longer when you're trying to make your 35-second goal. Almost there. A little longer. Remember, you can always switch your variation to something less intense. And that's that. All right. So that's the first round, John. We're going to do the same 3 moves one more time, and then I'll pass you on to another trainer, okay?
All right.
All right, here we go. Let's go back to a plank step-ins. Extend the legs out straight again. Give them a little space. Make sure that the pelvis isn't dropping too low or pointing too high. Pull one leg at a time. In and out. Nice and slow. No need to rush. As a matter of fact, the slower the better. For this, remember you can rest at any point. There's no need to push yourself too hard if this is the first time in a while. The point is just to get up off the couch and do something, right? And remember that you can always switch to this for the final few seconds. And that's it. So we're done with plant step-ins completely. It's out of the way. Now we're going to hit our legs.
All right.
Squat. Let's space them outside hip width, like I mentioned before. Turn the toes slightly open, almost in the shape of a Y. Then drive the knees out in the direction of the toes, spacing them nicely. Giving the hips enough space to drop right down between them. Drop the hands out, space it nicely with the chest up. I like to keep my hands at parallel to the floor, because I know that if they drop down, that means that my chest will be a little bit lower than it should be. So if I keep that parallel, nice and high, then I know I'm good. Let's stand up for 3. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. Drop. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. All right. Lastly, jumping jacks. It's important that we take really deep breaths at this point.
Yep.
To get the heart rate nice and low. Deep breaths in through the mouth. Get in as much oxygen as possible. Hold it for 2 and exhale. Let's begin our jumping jacks. Go as fast as your fitness level permits. Pace yourself. You can always switch to something less intense. If you have bad knees or a bad back and you don't want to do many jumps, take it slow. Stretch those legs far out to the side. Hold 10 seconds. Let's pick it up. And that's us.
Woo! I'm loving it.
I'm glad you are. Now I'm going to have you take a little bit of water, just a sip, nothing crazy. I don't want you to have a palate or anything like that. Just a sip of water and a lot of air. Stretch out, and I'll pass you to John. See you.
Thank you, K1. All right, Johnny. How are you feeling? Excellent.
How are you feeling,
John?
Hi, hey, Johnny. It seems that we're family. I'm John, you're John, we're cousins. So let's get it started.
All right, John. So in calisthenics, a fundamental is to have a very strong core, because it allows you to progress into intermediate and advanced exercises, which do bring the greater benefits of these exercises. But for now, we're going to focus on some beginner ones. And we're going to focus on exercises. The first being flutter kicks. So that's what we're going to do, John. We're going to get on our mats, get on the ground. We'll sit down, and we're going to come down and lay on our forearms, lay on the elbow, forearms extended. Pretend like you're at the beach right now, you're looking up at the waves coming. And what you're going to want to do, John, next, you're going to want to stick your toes forward and raise your legs both up to about a 20-degree angle. And you're going to kick up and down in a nice slow motion. So followed by flutter kicks, we're going to do Russian twist.
Okay.
Now Russian twist will be on the mat. And we're going to keep our legs in a nice triangular position.
Like we're hanging out.
We're going to lower our back slightly, keep our neck straight, looking forward, and both our hands, we're going to twist and touch to the side, left and right, whilst maintaining a stiff neck, looking forward, back slightly, tilted back.
Okay.
So next, after that, we're going to be following off with X crunches.
All right.
Now, X crunches, we're going to be on our mat, and we're going to lay down and spread our legs and arms wide apart. We're going to bring our left leg up and connect with our right hand. Now, If you struggle with the connection, I'll just try to bring it up as high as you possibly can. And begin right now.
All right, ready?
Yes, we're ready. So let's start with flutter kicks. Back down, we're on the beach, got the legs up, kicking in a nice up and down motion. Not too high, but a nice 20-degree angle.
I've got Coach Marlene in the house as well.
Breathe while we're doing this exercise. If this becomes a little too challenging, you can always put your hands below or above your tailbone while still maintaining that kicking motion. All right. So now we're gonna do Russian twist.
All right.
Set. Nice triangular form. The leg, tilt the back slightly back. Neck straight, looking forward, and twist side to side. Feel the twist in your obliques. How are we doing, John?
Doing great.
Doing good?
Yes, sir.
Good. And remember, you can always make this exercise a little more challenging by picking up the pace. But go to your fitness level and how you feel comfortable doing them.
All right.
Lastly, we're gonna go into our X crunches.
All right.
So remember, hands and arms wide apart. You're gonna bring the left leg up and connect with the right hand. Let's get on. Very important to try to get your shoulders off the ground when you're making the connection. Remember to constantly breathe while we're doing these exercises. Breathing is essential to every exercise that you do. All right, John, we're gonna go back to flutter kicks.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
We're on the beach. Those legs forward.
All right.
Let's get it.
Here we go.
Let's get it. Remember, toes pointed forward. And you can always make this a little easier by placing your hands either above or below your tailbone.
Okay. Because I feel it in the tailbone.
Yeah. 10 seconds, John.
Thank you, buddy.
You got it, John. I got it. You don't believe in you. Good.
All right.
This, John. Remember?
Uh-huh.
Nice strength out in the legs. Back slightly tilted back. Neck straight, looking forward, and twist side to side. The key is to twist as far as you can.
All right.
Remember, good, steady, controlled breathing. Fifty more seconds.
All right.
Now lastly, John,
Loving it.
finish our course. We're gonna end off again with one more round of the X crunches. Lay down, legs and arms apart. Left leg up, right hand connect. And vice versa. Try to get your shoulders as high off the ground as possible. And remember to have a constant, steady flow of breathing. How are you doing, John? Talk to me.
What's that?
Talk to me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. 4 seconds, John.
Woo!
Are you feeling it? Are you
I'm
feeling
feeling.
that?
I'll tell you
Nice and
what.
tight. H.
If I tell you anything otherwise, Johnny, I'm lying. I'm feeling like $1 million.
All right, thanks a lot, John. I'll now hand you over to Amir, and he's going to proceed with the boxing exercises.
All right. All right, so
Again, John.
we're ready and set for the next one. Who do I have? We don't have much time now.
I'll be teaching you a little bit of boxing this morning. First,
Alright.
we'll start by determining your boxing stance.
Okay.
Which hand do you stand?
Right.
Right? Alright. We'll stand about shoulder width apart. We'll take a step back with the right leg. Toes slightly angled to the right.
Okay.
Slightly bend the knees. Bring the hands up. Clench the fist. Place it around the cheek area. This is your boxing guard.
All right.
Each move that we'll be doing this morning will be from the same position.
Okay.
Alright, the move will be a 4-punch combo. Starting with the lead hand, which is the left hand, we'll fully extend the punch straight out.
Okay.
At the end of our punch, the palm should be facing the floor and return to guard.
All right. So let's see an example.
Sorry?
Let's see an example.
Alright. Fully extend and return to guard. Fully extend the left hand and return to guard.
All right.
And then we'll fully extend. At the end of our punches, the palm should be facing the floor and return.
Okay.
So we'll go 1, 2, 1, 2. We'll go at an upward angle, slightly above our heads.
Okay.
Right. The second move will be a defensive move, which would be slips. So we'll slip to the right while driving the left leg
Okay.
to the left and up. We'll slip to the left while driving the right leg out. Got it?
All right.
I'll quickly demonstrate here.
Ah. Oh, okay. It's like you're doing a.
Away punches. Got it?
I need to see that again, man. I need to see that again.
The third move will combine both. Alright,
Okay.
got it?
All right. I'll try my best.
You got it. 5 seconds to go. In the boxing stance.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 1, 2. At an upward angle. 1, 2, 1, 2. Fully extend. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Always return to guard. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. At an upward angle. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Fully extend the arms. 1, 2, 1, 2. Time. Next up is a defensive move, which will be the split.
So this is the one that I don't get too good.
Slip to the right and slip to the left. While driving, the opposite leg outward.
All right.
Got it?
I'll
Slip to
try.
the right.
So this just this. I
Yes.
feel like I'm doing capoeira.
You got this, Sean. So we're trying to envision the punches coming at us and we're moving our head away from the punch. So we'll slip to the right, we'll slip to the left.
I hope I'm doing it correctly, man. I love it.
Slip, 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 slip. Bend the knees while moving. Alright.
Tried.
Are you doing that?
Yep, feeling good. All right, because, so I'll tell you what, because time is not on our side, this is going to be our final one.
Alright, no problem.
So here we go.
So we go 1, 2, 1, 2. Slip to the right, slip to the left.
All right, so here we go.
Let's go.
Let's all right.
1, 2, 1, 2. Slip to the right, slip to the left. 1, 2, 1, 2. Slip to the right, slip to the left. 1, 2, 1, 2. Slip, slip. 1, 2, 1, 2. Slip, slip. Left, right. Slip, slip. Let's pick it up, John.
All right.
Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Slip, slip. And time.
Woo. Guys, that was good. What a great way to start the new year. I really and truly appreciated all the moves. Where can we find you guys if we'd like to see these moves some more?
You can find us on YouTube at K1 Fitness BZ. You can find us on Instagram at K1Fitness.BZ, on Facebook at K1Fitness.BZ. You can also find us on SoundCloud at K1 Music. You can find us on TikTok at K1.Inc. You can find us everywhere. Just let us know.
All right, Johnny, K1, and my other brother, I'd like to wish you guys all the very best. Thank you so very much for a good start to the new year, and here's to wishing you a good day, all right?
Hey guys. Appreciate your company. See you guys.
All right. So here we go. We're about to take our final break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping things up. Stay with us.
Go Boxer.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Play Mega Bingo for a chance of a lifetime. Over $600,000 could be yours this Wednesday. Yes, you heard right. The Mega Bingo jackpot is now $624,637. That could be all yours this Wednesday, live at 7 p.m. New COVID-19 curfew time on Channel 5, Wave Radio, Radio Bahia, Facebook and YouTube, Belize Mega Bingo. With only $2, all your dreams can come true. Be sure to visit any Mega Bingo agent countrywide and buy your tickets for a chance to win over $600,000. Mega Bingo is the game. Mega Bingo is the game.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
And we're back.
Just like that, we've come to the end of our show for
Listen
today.
to that. See the energy change from before and after? That's enough to convince you to get moving today.
But I'll tell you what, Marlene, it is very important to start moving.
Yeah.
Do something. Go on out there, walk. If you walk from here to the lane and you feel a little pain, then nothing is wrong to walk back. Tomorrow, you try to build
Go
that
a bit
positive.
further.
Yes, tomorrow you go further, and you'll see how things could progress for you. But it was an excellent time, and we'd like to thank everybody who joined us for today. And I'll tell you what, without you, this wouldn't have been possible. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also drop me a line at Marlene_OYE@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ.
You can find us on Instagram at OYE Belize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right, as per usual, keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.